and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we are happy to have you here with us. We already have almost 50 people here, and we've just started. I am so jazzed to be here. Obviously, you know, last week I took off some time to spend with Mrs. Boom. It was our 22nd anniversary, and just want to say real quick, a real big thank you to all of the very awesome and amazing messages that we got from many people in the community, wishing us well, having a lot of nice things to say. So yeah, I had put out a post, and almost 500 people, liked it and retweeted it. It was probably one of my favorite posts because so many people had so many nice things to say. But listen, folks, we have an incredible show. We're going to be talking a lot about Xbox and the current ongoings. And of course, we're going to be talking about Starfield, their customizable aspect of it, where you can design your own character, is probably going to be the deepest in Bethesda's history. We're going to be talking about the new information that comes out of the way of Temuera Morrison. Now, if you don't know who he is the actor that plays Boba Fett, and he has in his past voiced numerous Star Wars games, and he had something to say about a new Star Wars game that's coming. And I know that for a while we've been talking about the Mandalorian. Folks, I kind of think that we might have an actual Xbox exclusive in the form of a Boba Fett game. But again, that's complete speculation. Of course, we're going to talk about the new information that comes the way of Special Nick of the Xbox Era podcast, good friends of this program, where EA apparently is making a Marvel game. And the question that comes to mind, at least for me and some people already on this panel, is this an opportunity for Xbox to potentially make some sort of a deal, even if it's a timed exclusive for said EA game, and get that Marvel game locked up onto Xbox? That is something that we're going to be talking about. And of course, the final topic, ladies and gentlemen, the big one, the one that I have put out there on the socials: Xbox beats PlayStation in Japan once again. What does this mean? Well, some people that responded to my post said it means nothing. And of course, they were blocked immediately for stupidity. But the truth is, how do streaks happen, Ember? How do streaks happen? Well, you got to get one win. You got to get a second, and then a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and then a 10th, and a 20th, and a 30th. And that's how you build destinies. That's how you build streaks. And let me tell you something, folks. Japan is going to be a battleground this fall when Riot's games come to Xbox Game Pass. It is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. But listen, enough of me rambling. Let's get into the introductions. Umbra, how the heck are you, brother? Welcome.
Thank you, Boom. Thanks for having me again, man. I'm good. It's good to be here with you guys. First time actually podcasting with Daniel here and Josh. So very nice to meet you two fellas. Yeah, Zemi, of course, the former birthday boy. Played a few games with him over the weekend too. Yeah, I'm ready to chop it up with you guys.
We're certainly glad to have you. Obviously, Pong Soul, he's at work. Mav is helping. Today's Mav's daughter's birthday, so big happy birthday to her. He has a lot of her friends coming over, and of course, he's playing lifeguard as well as dad. So obviously, got to make sure the kids are okay, and he'll be back next week. VJ still under the weather, and Boxenberger had a work thing. So thank goodness that we actually have three guests. And, here we are. We're putting on a show for you. Hopefully you enjoy enough to either subscribe if you're not already subscribed, or, of course, hit the like button. Let's welcome in our other guest, Daniel McGee, making a return appearance. Daniel, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
I'm doing really good. We actually just hit a really big milestone over on my YouTube channel. In that I put out my first video. It was about the Square Enix situation with all the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah,
and it's my first video to really set off fanboys. They really showed up in my. I said in passing at one point that I had not heard good things about Final Fantasy Crisis Core, and wouldn't you know it, all 5 Crisis Core fans showed up to just raid my comments.
You know what, you know you've made it when the trolls come to your channel.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is they're coming in, they're leaving these paragraph long things about how I suck, and the algorithm doesn't know the difference, so it's recommending my video more. Viewership's up like 500 views or something.
I love
like
it.
it's
That's great.
amazing.
That's
Love
great.
it.
That's
Can't
awesome.
wait.
Good on the trolls. You see, you trolls, you helped this man out. See, who's the real winner here? You
Come on
with your
by.
terrible comments, or Daniel McGee? I think Daniel McGee is the real winner. But listen, we love to have you here because obviously getting you and Umbra and Zemi Games, who all have who have podcasts, who have YouTube channels. The point of having you on here, besides having an intelligent conversation, is to get people to know who you are. So of course you can see and reap the rewards of being on the show. And as like I said, my job is to promote you guys, and I hope that I do a good job in doing so. But Zemi Games went from podcaster, from content creator to game maker. What's going on, brother? Welcome back.
Well, thank you so much for the invite, man. I'm super excited to be back. And man, I've been playing a ton of Fable here recently. And let me just say real quick, if there's anyone in the chat, and I'm sure most of them have already played like Fable 1 or have played like the Fable Anniversary Edition, but wow, oh my God, Fable 1 is a masterpiece. Like
It is.
Yeah, it's been like 10 plus years since I last played it, and it is just blowing me away, like how advanced that game was for its time. But
Absolutely, yeah.
Man, I've just been relaxing, working on my game some more, trying to add achievements, to Xbox, and hopefully soon I'll have a nice announcement for that. And then other than that, just been playing a bunch of Fable. So yeah, but man, super excited for the show. Thanks so much for getting me back on.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on, brother. Definitely appreciate that. And last and no way least, Josh, or should I say TikTok Josh? What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So glad to be here. Fighting a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little hoarse or whatever, I do apologize. But really excited to chat about these topics, and nice to meet the new faces and the returning faces. So glad to be here.
Well, it's honestly great to have you here. Let's get into topic number one, shall we? And get everyone's opinion. And Zemi, I'm going to go to you first, because if anyone represents the Bethesda brand better than you, then I'd have to give them the Gold Star Award, because you seem to be one of the biggest Bethesda fans going. And the Xbox UK Twitter account put out a tweet regarding the customization of Starfield, which will be launching hopefully in the first quarter of next year. And according to what they said this with the tweet. Hashtag Starfield's character creator, you can customize your way. It appears that there's going to be a deep customization and the most detailed in the developer's history. And of course, here's what should be important to you. Pick your look. Choose your background, get optional traits. Who will you be? And they went through a whole video where it showed every race, creed, color. Listen, Zemi, this is going to be epic. And I say that not just because this is the first new IP in a decade from God Howard, as he's known among many people. It is one of the biggest IPs that as an exclusive to Xbox and PC. It's going to be one of those games, I honestly believe, that's going to have a ridiculous amount of water cooler moments where your story is going to be incredibly different from mine. We may not even cross the same alien race. I may board a pirate ship, kill them all, get some random weapon that's OP'd, and you'll never see it because Starfield is supposed to be big. But one of the things that sets this game apart, what sets many Bethesda games apart, is the ability to customize your character, to build you in this universe. When you hear that this is going to be potentially one of the most detailed customization aspects of Bethesda's history, how does that excite you, brother?
Oh, it gets me very excited, Boom. Very, very excited. I mean, I've of course been playing Bethesda games for many, many, many years now. And, I've kind of seen like a trend, kind of a transition to simplifying things a lot more than like really just expanding on them for Bethesda games. Like, for instance, Morrowind had just a lot more things in the game that you could kind of do that affected like your character. And then they kind of dummied it down a little bit for Oblivion, and then they dummied it again down for Skyrim. And one of the things that I really, really missed from the old school Elder Scrolls games was being able to pick a class. Like, and it appears that this game is going to kind of allow you to have sort of a class, as in a background, which really, really gets me excited. And just like looking through like all of the backgrounds that I found on like Starfield wiki, like it looks like they have one that's called Cyber Runner, and that just gives me some flashbacks to Cyberpunk 2077. That just sounds awesome. Yeah, like Beast Hunter, Bouncer, Bounty Hunter, Chef. You could have the background of being a chef. I mean, just all of these different backgrounds sounds really, really cool. And this is something that a lot of really amazing role-playing games do, like Dragon Age and Mass Effect did it to a decent extent. And the very first Mass Effect game, being able to choose what background you have to feel closer to the character, and to, like, I don't know, to me it feels like the character that I'm creating then actually has a history in this world. Whereas whenever you're creating a character for a lot of games without like the whole background and all that different stuff, it just feels like you're just being born right then and there, and like there's no rhyme or reason to what you did previously before you took control of that character. But overall, I'm extremely excited. I mean, just the amount of detail that you can put into your character, and of course, you're able to pick male or female. That's pretty basic. It seems like they have pretty much all like the basic character designing elements that we've kind of all come to expect in as players of video games. But it just looks even better, right? The characters in this game, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they look like 100% like real people or anything crazy like that, but they look so much better than the character models and Fallout 4 and Skyrim and so on and so forth. I am very, very, very excited to jump in, and these traits look absolutely hysterical. I mean, there's a trait, I think, for like starter home, right? And you own a small house at the very beginning of the game, but you have like a 50,000 credit mortgage that you have to worry about paying down. Some of these traits are just absolutely awesome. I love them so much. I cannot wait to jump into this game and be able to design my character. In some ways, they're not going to do this, but one thing I think would be flippin' amazing if they did. Saints Row released a boss factory that you can go ahead and download right now and create your own character for Saints Row. How awesome would it be if Bethesda dropped something like that, but for Starfield, to allow all of us to be able to create our character 3 months or so on and so forth before the game actually launches? I think that would be incredible. They're probably not going to do that. That would probably be way too much work for the amount of time that they have left. But that would be awesome. I would love that.
I actually think you should put that onto the socials and direct that directly at Todd Howard. I think that is an incredible idea. And something, I had forgotten that was available, because I'm definitely getting Saints Row. Saints Row is one of the games I'm hoping comes to Xbox Game Pass, not because I don't want to spend the money, because I'm going to buy the game anyway. But because of how light they are in regards to first party this year, beefing up some big third party releases that seem to be that fit.
I co-sign that, Boom. But I'm going to say this: I'm unashamed to say I want it to come to Game Pass, because I don't want to spend the money for it.
Well,
I'll tell anybody
you pay for a service, so you technically are spending the money.
That's
already.
right.
Yeah,
I'll tell anybody. They'd be like, "Oh, Xbox don't buy games." If that's what that makes you feel better inside, as long as I get that game on Game Pass, I do not care what narrative you run with.
Well, I think that if you look at what's coming in October, the release list that I was as I was doing some stuff around the house, I actually was folding because I did the wash today. So yeah, real life, folks, it happens. I was listening to Living Split Screens this weekend's past show because my nephew was over and I couldn't hang out in the chat. So I was listening to it, and they were going over the list of games coming in October. Folks, it is ridiculous. And a lot of those games are coming to Xbox Game Pass. There are a couple that are, unknown at this point. Gotham Knights seems to be the one that a lot of people want. I want it in there for a lot of reasons. I think that would be that is a fantastic game to get into Xbox Game Pass. Again, we don't know if that's coming. They should fork out the money for it. That is for sure. But Umber, since you jumped in, let's get your opinion on this. Look, Starfield, without any doubt, is going to be one of the biggest games released next year. Now, that's saying something, considering that next year, specifically just looking at an Xbox, is a loaded year, and we only know the first half. We don't know what's coming in July and to the end of 2023, which we could get some big bombs there. How important is it to hear, for at least for you, how detailed this is going to be in regard to creating your own, character?
It's pretty important to me. And the thing about Bethesda games is Zimmy and anybody else who plays them or played them knows it's like the creative freedom they give you absolutely matters, and it absolutely draws you into those Bethesda games. That's why they're so monumental. Some people, of course, tried to play it down with the whole No Man's Sky thing, but I had to have this debate with somebody on Twitter before, and it's like they're not even comparable in any real way, in any real way that matters. Of course, you're going to have crossover because it's space. So you're going to go to space. You're going to fly. You're going to probably have dog fights in space. You're probably right. You're going to do mineral extractions and things like that. So that's a given. But as far as all of those things, it's just so in depth. So I'm hoping that it's really, really deep. And from what I've seen, it is. I don't know if it allows you to make any alien type characters. From what I've seen, it seems to be human based, period. And I think even the story lends itself to that, based off what I remember hearing and reading, because I know it's like the last of humanity or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But it absolutely matters. You know what I'm going to do, right? I already told you before, the last time I was on here, like what type of ship I'm going to try to create, especially with those mods. I'm trying to get the Millennium Falcon, y'all. But I'm going to
nothing wrong with that. That's the one thing I can't wait to see. The modding community is so talented.
They are.
How some of them aren't devs on their own right shocks me, because we've seen like entire campaigns. Specifically, if you look like talking about Bethesda game, what they did with New Vegas. Like they continued the story leaps and bounds well past. They've created full-on games that run better than it's the original game, which is I cannot wait to see.
I don't know if I'm impressed with the modders or disappointed with Bethesda. I don't know. It's like, wait a minute, how you all? Maybe you all should be hiring them. But
absolutely,
I'm going to make a blaxploitation space captain, and only I can do that because I'm black, Sue. So I'm going to do that. And he's going to be based off Black Dynamite. I'm going to role play as him. And I might stream it. I'm going to role play and jive talk like from the 70s.
That is funny.
They'll be like, yes, we need you to go into this whatever new planet, blah, blah, blah. What you trying to tell me, mama? I'm going to be real extra about it.
I love it. That's awesome. Hey, listen, they did this role playing thing for Grand Theft Auto Online. We saw guys from Kind of Funny doing that. So that it's those kind of role playing stuff. That's actually a thing. But yeah, I'm very excited because I normally I do make a character that looks at me. I put the mohawk on, I get the glasses. I try to make it close to what I look like. But I think that for this particular game, because of its relevance and its importance to me as a gamer, being this incredibly 10-year, decade-long dream of Todd Howard and that team to bring to fruition, and I'm gonna spend a lot of time making this character as close to me as possible, because I really want to for this to be my story. And I can't wait to have these conversations with everyone in the community who will be playing the same game but have such different stories to tell. It's very exciting for sure.
100%.
Daniel McGee, let's get your opinion on this, brother. What are your thoughts on what they're claiming to be one of the most detailed and biggest customization in Bethesda's history?
Oh, I'm really excited for it. I'm the kind of guy who, when I'm playing an RPG, I'll spend like an hour in the character creator before I start the game, and then get into the game and see that the character that I made looks like a monster, and go back into the character creator. That's me.
That's great,
right? So I'm really excited for it, and I think it's really important just for, like, representation purposes. Obviously, I hope that they do the thing that a lot of RPGs have been doing lately, where it's like, oh, well, you can separate, like, the pronoun from the body type and all that, so that people who associate in that way can, feel represented. I mean, it's a game that takes place in the future. Hopefully, it's a better future than where we are now. So that's all really exciting. I mean, for me, really, my role play really comes more down to the choices that I make in the game. So hopefully that's on the same level. But I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, knowing how Todd Howard looks at these games and how he designs these games, we understand, or at least we have expectations that there is going to be a future where a lot of these decisions are going to matter. I don't necessarily know if your character design is going to matter in the conversation, because then you're really getting into the minutia of, why does it matter? Is it because you're a female in space? Is it because you're African American, or you're an alien? I hope it doesn't get that detailed, because what you don't want to see is real life. You want to play these games to escape. But with that said, I absolutely, like Zemi brought up a great point. The fact that I can be this scumbag pirate that goes around robbing everyone and have a history of, I used to cook, I was a chef, is hilarious. I mean, I just think that there's going to be so many different things. Again, what excites me is the conversations that we're going to have, because everyone is going to be so different. I think that everyone is going to play this game differently. I'm going to play the game as a good guy. Like, I actually, like, I have a tick. Like, I find it hard to play as a bad guy. I don't know why that is. Like, even like when I would be, try to do a different shepherd, I always go back to being a good guy.
I swear I'm the same way, Boom.
I
try to be the enemy too. Like Fable, I try to be evil, and it's like, I can't do it.
So,
can't do it.
With my latest playthrough of Fable, I've told myself I'm going to be the evilest monster I can be. And like every 5 minutes, I have to remind myself, no, Zimmy, you're a bad guy. What would the bad guy do? What would the bad guy do?
You have to give yourself pep talks. No, you're bad. Look in the mirror.
Oh my God, that's great. So you have the horns instead of the halo, which is hilarious. Yeah. And you know what? I wanted to say this before. I didn't want to get us too off track, but I have to go to Zemi real quick with this and say, my God, not to give the business to Microsoft, but if Fable isn't coming out for another 2 years, let's just say for shits and giggles, and I don't think
are you gonna say like remaster, like come out with
why isn't there an Unreal Engine 5 Fable? I'm just saying that remake the original in Unreal Engine 5. Listen, look. Again, I don't want to go. We still have to get poor Josh.
I want him to remaster all three, man.
No.
I want him. Oh,
I am gonna take this down a road, folks. So get prepared. Everyone and their mother is excited for The Last of Us remake, because The Last of Us in itself is it's a pinnacle game in history, not just PlayStation history, but I'm just talking about gaming history. It did things, it told stories unlike anything before it. It was emotional. It was special when it released, and it still remains to be. Sony is releasing a $70s, almost an $80 remake. That's a 1-to-1 remake, and everyone's cheering and everyone's excited. And if you never played it, I'm almost jealous that you never played it, right? But the fact of the matter is that it gained so much momentum because people are excited to play said game. We lost Zemi. He'll promise to pop. We'll get him back here in a second. With that said, guys, I feel that it is an incredibly missed opportunity that we do not have a remake of Fable, which I don't think would be that hard, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not a developer. I know you're not making a new game like you are in making Fable, like Playground Games is, but they could hire someone to remake Fable in Unreal Engine 5, and I don't think it'd be that hard. I think it's a missed opportunity, but Zemi, you're back. What's up, Zemi? We lost you for a hot second. N64, Josh, let's reel this back in and let's get your opinion on this. What are your thoughts on this confirmation that this is going to have one of the most deepest character customization in Bethesda's history?
I mean, it's fantastic listening to you guys talk about it and how excited everybody sounds. I think it's great. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to explain to you, I'm going to take you on a little journey here of just how basic and vanilla I am, okay? Mass Effect 1 comes out. I actually spend some time in the character creator. Knowing Mass Effect 2 is coming out, I hated the fact that my character didn't look like Shepard from the box. So I replayed Mass Effect 1. I don't replay games. Let me make this very clear. I do not replay games. I replayed through Mass Effect 1, not realizing that I could have changed the character because I didn't know that ahead of time, but played all the way through Mass Effect 1 so that my Shepard was the Shepard from the cover of the box.
That's hilarious, dude.
When I started Mass Effect 2. So yes, I am basic. I am vanilla. I understand.
Nothing wrong with that.
I also am all about getting into the game and not spending that, because it's like, okay, let me spend all this time and then put a helmet on. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So I'm just kind of, and not to mention it's first person. So I'm like, this isn't multiplayer. As far as we know, nobody else is going to be seeing me other than the NPCs that don't care. And so I kind of just, I know it can be third person too, right? We did see, but again, you're in a helmet most of the time. You're going to have different pieces of armor on. I'm just like, let's get to the action. I like the other like characteristics that they're adding. Like, yeah, I used to be a chef, stuff like that may play a role later on in the game at different, with, small different aspects, which I think is also pretty cool. But I'm like, knowing how massive this game is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time creating my character. I want to start exploring.
I mean, you know what? That's perfectly understandable. I am going to say something to what you just said. If you pick the chef class, I'm going to tell you this right now. There better be an opportunity to save a hostage because you know how to make a better burrito than the guy that they just killed. I'm telling you right now, if they don't have that story beat in there, I'm going to riot, because I think that if you are putting a chef in there, the ability to say I was a chef, that better come into play. You better save your own life by being able to cook the best dish that you could possibly make.
Achievement Master Chef unlocked.
There you go.
I could say something really dark, but I'm just gonna move away from that.
I'm guessing it's what cooking the human is, isn't it, Zimmy?
It is. It's with cannibalism. Okay, I don't want to bring this, but a lot of Bethesda games have involved cannibalism. Okay, like
they do. That is a fact. Yes,
and I could just imagine you finding like this cannibalistic cult on some planet and being like, "Hey, I used to be a chef. Have you thought about adding garlic? Maybe I can just imagine
space paprika go a long way."
Yeah, that would be like the perfect like crossover of your background in game. Yeah,
that's great. Listen, I mean, this is what we're hoping comes to this game, and like I said, look, the reality is, folks, we were all disappointed, but I'm absolutely okay with the delay. I really am. I think that with the extra time that they give this game, normally Bethesda games, they release and they're a little bit buggy, and everyone's like, yeah, it's a Bethesda. That's the charm of Bethesda. I'm hoping that this is in fact one of those games that bucks that trait that they're known for, and it's just an amazing experience, and we're all just loving it. But listen, folks, I'm going to get into topic number 2 But before I do, I got to catch up with some of the super chats. Been quite a few of them. We have one that comes in. The first one is from, let me just get to the private chat. Thank you, Zemi Games. Drawn TJ drops the first $5 of today, and he says, "Hi guys, Xbox handheld at possibly 1440p at 30 FPS would be perfect. Hell, I love the idea of them making their own." Yeah, I've actually said this. I'm going to be sitting down with Luke Lore, who used to be a member of the panel for the Xbox Factor podcast, this Thursday on the new episode of X Vlog Live, and that is the lead story. We've been hearing some rumblings from Jeff Grubb. We've heard some things from Jez Corden of Windows Central, that apparently they are testing a handheld Xbox, and as great as you being able to play on your phone and your tablet and on your refrigerator, that's not how I enjoy playing. I actually want them to do their own handheld. I think they should. I think that well, if you're putting it on the TV and it's on your pewter, and then you can play on your tablet and your phone, well, why not have a handheld? So we're going to get into that on this Thursday's show. So thank you for the super chat, brother. We also have Kirby Zero Louise, good friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, "Boom! If you're struggling with role playing a villain, then go listen to some Disney villain songs. That'll do the trick." P.S. Great show. Yeah, I mean, Disney villains are great, but that's awesome, brother. Thank you for that.
Put on some Lion King, Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. Scar.
Long
Oh my God.
live the king.
That's great. I love it. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "I'm nervous as it's a new game from Bethesda, but I have no fear of playing it as it's a game. It's in Game Pass. I only risk my time." Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those system sellers, but I think it's going to potentially be an Xbox Game Pass seller once this thing gets reviewed, and I think it's going to be reviewed high, and I could be wrong. I suspect this is going to be one of those high 90 meta games, and again, it's my speculation. I think that if it turns out to be that big of a game, this is going to be one of those games that does sell Xbox Game Pass subscriptions. There's no doubt about it. We also have drops a £2 super chat and says, "When do you think xCloud will do 4K 60 like Stadia?" That's actually a fantastic question, dude. I actually have no idea. I've tried it, and every time I've tried it recently, it works really good. I've had no problem. I've tried games with controller, with the controller, on the screen, and I've had zero problems with it. I would love to see them get up to Stadia level, considering that Stadia is dead. That would be great. But I don't know. That's something, you know what? If you really want to know, drop Jason Ronald, at him on Twitter. He usually responds. That guy's aces. Raiden Blade, good friend of the program, drops a £10 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom and panel. I just heard about a PS Fan account got hacked. His mom contacted Sony for a refund. Mom turned to the bank to get the refund, and Sony blocked the account. Over 200 games, 15 years fan." Yeah, you know what? That's actual and a fact. That's disgusting. And I've told the story before, not to get off track, but my brother, Neo Mental, is a big Destiny fan. He has over 5,000 hours across 3 platforms. And he had pre-ordered Destiny 2. And 3 months, folks. Not 3 days, not 3 weeks, 3 months before the game was going to release. He's like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm only going to have time to play it on Xbox. I'm going to cancel my pre-order." Sony told him, "No dice. You can't cancel." He's like, "But it's 3 months away. Why can't I cancel it?" "Oh, we don't cancel pre-orders." So he went to the bank, and the bank got his money back, and they locked out his account. And he could not get his account back until he bought Destiny. They're like the Gestapo.
Wow.
Yeah, they're disgusting. No one calls Sony out for that, but their customer service when it comes to refunds and stuff is not only abysmal, it is probably the worst in the industry, and that no one ever says anything to Sony. Again, is Microsoft bad, Sony good, no matter what they do. It's unbelievable. But that's a sad state of affairs. And like I said, this is where the Better Business Bureau has to get involved. That's gross. If in fact that continues to happen in 2022. But folks, let's get into topic number 2. Folks, look, here's the thing. I gotta shout out Idle Sloth 84. Now, if you don't follow this dude on Twitter, you're doing it all wrong. This guy is a sleuth. He finds all this Xbox news, and I recently reached out to him, and he was nice enough to drop this into my DM. And he put out on Twitter, for your information, Temuera Morrison, Boba Fett, who did voice acting for Republic Commando, Battlefront series, and the Bounty Hunter game. Well, he was asked early this month if he will return to voice acting in Star Wars games anytime soon. And this is what he had to say, and it's quite simple. He says, there will be something coming. I can let you know that for a fact. Now, here's the thing. I put in the notes, is this a Boba Fett game? Is this a Boba Fett exclusive? Now, we've been hearing for quite some time that Microsoft has locked up a few IPs, specifically Disney IPs, one of which is a Star Wars game. It's a rumor. And the other is a Marvel game. And we're going to get into the second top. We're going to segue into a second a Marvel topic right after this. But keeping with Star Wars, if he is doing some voiceover work, which he has confirmed that he is this a part of the Mandalorian game that's rumored to be or is it an actual Boba Fett game? Well, we don't know, but we're certainly going to speculate and talk about it. Zemi Games, I want to go to you first on this.
Yeah.
One of the things we were talking about in the green room before we went live, specifically with Umbra, what frustrates me as an Xbox fan, I know the Xbox is listening, so and I don't take that for granted. They don't have to listen to this show, but I know that they do. One of the things that frustrates me with Xbox is this absence of licensed IPs. Like it's one of the things that it seems like they don't want to be a part of, and I think it's an incredible mistake. Now, we have heard rumors that they have rectified that with these deals with Disney. There's potentially a Star Wars IP that's exclusive. There's apparently a Marvel IP that's coming that's going to be an exclusive, and that's great. And I think I want to thank the gaming gods. It's about time that this has happened. I know that Phil Spencer specifically, not a big fan of it because he has no control. But if you make the deal a certain way, well, you can have a lot of control. And I'm glad to hear that this might be a thing for you. How important is Microsoft getting a Star Wars IP, and more importantly, potentially having Boba Fett be voiced by the guy that was in the original trilogy?
I mean, first off, with the guy, voicing Boba Fett, I mean, that could be its own standalone Boba Fett game.
Yep.
It could be maybe another Republic Commando game or something like in the vein of that, something like kind of Clone Wars, related. It could also, I guess, potentially be him working with the people in like the Jedi survival game. Maybe Boba Fett's going to make an appearance in that game, right?
Yep.
For all that we know. As far as the importance of Xbox having like an exclusive Star Wars game, I'm going to be honest. This is me personally. I could care less. The thing that I care about is just that I'm able to play it. Right.
Gotcha.
I don't care if Xbox gets, an exclusive Marvel game or if they get an exclusive Star Wars game. What I care about is, can I play it? Right. I don't care if the PlayStation people can play it, and so long as I can play it too. Right. That's really and truly what I care about. The second thing is I'd love to see it go into Game Pass. Right. It saves me money and it grows the service even more. And Xbox isn't really playing the game of who can sell the most consoles. They're really playing the game of, who can, how many subscribers can they get to this awesome service? That's really the game that they're playing. Whenever PlayStation got the timed exclusive, I think for the Knights of the Old Republic reboot or remake or whatever it is, like that kind of killed a little part of my soul. Right. It really did. Because I wanted to play that so badly. Worst case scenario, or if nothing else, I want Xbox to make sure that Xbox players are able to play these Marvel games and these Star Wars games that, that PlayStation, that are third party, that should otherwise be third party, right? If that is, locking in a marketing deal, if that is, getting the game into Game Pass, whatever, they need to do, I definitely want them to do that. With that being said, if they make a Marvel game that is exclusive, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I mean, I've made my my opinion of exclusives, like third party exclusives, very, very clear over the last couple of years. I don't like the idea of gamers not being able to play games, especially whenever they're a part of these huge, gigantic franchises like Marvel and Star Wars. So I'm not going to be sitting there cheering in the background. Oh yeah, PlayStation people can't play this new Boba Fett game or whatever it ends up being. But I'm not gonna not play the game. Of course I'm gonna play the game. So I think it's really awesome news that the guy that voices the clone troopers and Boba Fett is coming back. I think that's awesome. That's really, really exciting news, and I can't wait to see how that translate into the game into games. As far as the whole exclusive thing, that's just pretty much my take on it. I think it's more important that Xbox gamers can just play the games rather than having them exclusive.
And listen, you make a lot of sense with that. That makes perfect sense to me. Listen, I'm not a person that wants to hide behind exclusives. I think exclusives matter. Let's get that understood right now. I think exclusives are incredibly important. We've seen Sony do it to unbelievable success, specifically with Marvel, which we're going to get into momentarily. But listen, I want to go to Umbra because Umbra, you have some big opinions when it comes to this kind of stuff, specifically with exclusives. This particular game, we don't know what it is. We don't know who he's doing the voice acting for. If obviously we know that Boba Fett came back in a big way in The Mandalorian. We have heard numerous times from numerous insiders that there is a Boba Fett game, a Mandalorian game being made as an Xbox exclusive by ZeniMax Online. We also heard that they might have something from Marvel in development. For you personally, and like I said, if you're finding the channel for the first time, don't be surprised by what Zemi had to say, because he's always been where he doesn't care so much about the exclusive. He just wants to be able to play it, and he doesn't like not being able to play a said game. And I absolutely completely understand. For me, I've always been on the fact that, well, I mean, Sony does it to great success. Why shouldn't Microsoft do it as well? And again, getting into Game Pass, that's here nor there. It's going to be in Game Pass if it's an exclusive. Where do you fall on this? First of all, whether Temuera Morrison is actually voicing. What is he voicing? Is it his own Boba Fett game? I'll buy that in a second. Is he's going to be a part of the Mandalorian, because he was a part of the Mandalorian?
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, what about the exclusivity of a Mandalorian game? Do you think Microsoft needs that?
I think Microsoft does need that. I definitely get where Zemi is coming from. He's much more. I'm gonna have to start calling you Zemi Love, because you want to spread the love around. I get it. I respect it. That's a respectable stance. I'm not mad at that. But I would say absolutely exclusives matters. We've been taught this lesson for years by Sony. Exclusives matter, and although I do agree, I would prefer at the very least to have the game available on Xbox, right? So I get your stance there, Zemi, but I would say if it's possible to get something like this and leverage it on there, I think Phil and them have to get past that fear of what Tomb Raider and whatever did to them for that exclusivity, for the IP, licensed IP and such, or at least for exclusivity. I know that the license thing, I know he's spoken on it before, and they want to prefer to make their own IP strong and powerful. And we know about the Spider-Man situation, which I'm sure infuriated many of us once we found out about that. And of course, Zemi, like you pointed out with the KOTOR situation, that absolutely was like a slap to the face to Xbox gamers. There's no question about it.
And that was Microsoft's fault.
It was,
because they were approached first and they said nay. Which again, I'm gonna die on this hill. Not only is it a mistake from from an aesthetics point of view, from the fact that that game, when you talk about that game, it equates Xbox. I
Yep.
think it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It's a really bad look because
Yeah.
like you said, it's intrinsically tied to the Xbox. So it's like to have that, and Sony knows it too. That's the thing that I, I appreciate about Sony. And Sony makes no bones about it. Sony knows exactly what gamers wants when it comes to those types of things. They don't mince words.
Well, they don't shy away from being petty, dude.
Absolutely, they don't shy away. They don't try to be the good guy. They go straight for it. Now I know Microsoft is in a bit of a situation where they can't quite be the good guy, and they have to go out of their way to appear as such. But nobody's ever going to see Microsoft as a good guy. It's too late for that. You're a trillion, $2 trillion, almost $3 trillion company. They see you as the bad guy. I would say just embrace that, because absolutely getting a Mandalorian game, I would say Mandalorian even over Boba Fett, but I know both have ridiculously great and big time fan bases. Yep. I would say Mandalorian is more popping right now, so I would go for that. I think he's more culturally relevant at the moment, and I think that would draw more people in, even like mothers and soccer moms. I think they would be drawn into that because of Grogu and such and all that. I don't want to get spoilers away, but I think the Mandalorian, especially if what we rumored to be by Bethesda Online, if they did something like that, absolutely, that would be monumental. And it's a good way for them to kind of rebound as far as the Fallout 76 situation too, the online team. Yep. So I think absolutely that would be pretty big. And I think the whole license thing, Sony uses it to great effect. And because of that, now many people have been confused as to Spider-Man even being a Sony property or not. They don't know, because Sony has used them so well.
Oh, I've had conversations with people that swear up and down that they own the video game IP.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, they own the film. That's all they own is the film. It is the video games and the toys. That Disney owns that.
That's right. But Sony has used it so well, and Sony is so good at that. By the way, it's not even just with Spider-Man. Like, look at how they do other games when they present.
We'll have with Destiny. How many people did you know in your gaming circle were like, no, Destiny's exclusive?
It happened with Red Dead 2. There was a sticker on it that said like exclusive, and then in like fine print underneath it, it was like content for the PlayStation.
Small print. But yeah, stuff like that. Sony is really good at that. Even at their shows, if you all remember, they'll showcase a game and it won't show the other platforms that it'll appear on. So people often believe, oh, it's exclusive to PlayStation. They're really good at that. So I think Microsoft needs to kind of take a lesson from them and just go with it too. I don't think you're going to lose any points by being a little more direct and blatant with the attempts of that anyway. And I think overall it would just be a smart move. I think it'll bring a lot of seats, a lot of people to not only to subscribe to Game Pass, but also, to sell more units. I think it'll be the smartest way to do it. And I only look at this, I don't care about, even when we talk about the subject of sales, I care only so much as I'm glad the brand is doing well. And I know that that's going to be good for me as a subscriber to Game Pass and as Xbox being my primary platform. That's where I care. That's why I care if it does well.
Well, it doesn't hurt that it would be an Xbox Game Pass.
That
what I'm saying?
That's always a plus for me.
Yeah, 100% a plus. Let me bring in N64 Josh on this. Josh, listen, right now, Star Wars is in a really great place. That's not due to Kathleen Kennedy, to be honest with you. I don't want to get into that, but I don't think it's because of her. I think it's because of Jon Favreau and oh my God, why did I forget?
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni. Thank you for the save. Those two gentlemen have saved Star Wars, and it started with The Mandalorian and continues. Obviously, season 3 is expected to drop early next year. I believe it's going to be in January or February of next year, and it's going to be big. Season 2 was just incredible. Coming off the heels of a highly anticipated, follow-up series to 2. How big of a deal would it be from Xbox to get a Mandalorian exclusive and to have Temuera Morrison come back as Boba Fett and actually maybe be in there as a cameo?
So, because Mav's not here, we're gonna have a little fun speculation. You guys see what I did there, right? Let's
like that.
Let's take this to another level. Let's make this a game where you get to play as the Mandalorian, not as Boba Fett, not as the Mandalorian, but your own.
Oh,
Similar to
create it. Yeah,
Destiny.
dude, absolutely. You should be able to
Mhm.
create your own Mandalorian. Absolutely.
Yeah, give us 4-player co-op so we can run strikes, aka bounties, similar
Yes.
to like Destiny.
Oh my God, I love this.
And just
Someone hire this man. Hire Josh, please.
but just like and lean into that fun stuff, because I mean, you've got all kinds of different weapons. You could find different weapons along the way. I mean, we've seen it in the Mandalorian. He's been upgrading stuff and getting different, melee weapons and the wrist rockets and flamethrower. Like, there is a plethora of things to pull from for a game like this. That I mean, can you imagine doing a 4-player battle against a Rancor? Right, or having to take on massive squads of stormtroopers, and
what about having to go through one of the Fett's bases?
Yes,
from start to finish or something. Yeah, now we're talking.
Like, absolutely, like this. But you could have cameos from any of the main characters. But I feel like, and I get hung up on this bounty thing. I've wanted them to do something like this with Metroid forever too, where like you could continually get DLC and do bounties. Like, I just want a game where I can play as a character I really, really enjoy, and it lasts for a while, right? Like give us something that's like a decent single player game. But as far as like strikes, for anybody that's familiar with Destiny, it was like you run through these missions with your friends. One of my very first shows that I ever created was via Twitch, that I would upload the video to YouTube, and it was called The Guardian Strike Back, and we would just converse as we played strikes, and I loved it. And it's a great way to just unwind with friends, get cool loot, and explore a Star Wars universe, right? And the difficulties change, depending on the weapons that you have, or the if you can, maybe you can fly, maybe you can't fly, maybe you've got to escort characters similar to like Grogu, or fight against different bounty. Like, there are endless possibilities with something like this, and to then have that be a Game Pass exclusive, game over. Like, you get an IP like Star Wars, and you get a game that doesn't end. Like, let's go. I don't know if it works on Game Pass though. Let's be clear, because that kind of defeats it's almost like a free to play kind of thing. So I don't know. There may have to be,
maybe they could lower the price, Josh. Maybe they could lower the subscription price for it.
That could be the case. Or, I mean, we're watching Infinite right now, and there's still a battle pass. Maybe that's the kind of route that they go for it. But with exclusive content to the Xbox, I'm not sure. Maybe you get a Mandalorian that you can make look like Master Chief, that kind of thing.
That
as
would
well.
be kind of dope.
Like,
I'm going to be honest with you.
Throw in a Nasher into the Star Wars universe, or the Lancer. I don't know. Like,
well, the possibilities are limitless. But
sure.
You know what's interesting? At the core of this conversation, Josh, and like I said, I know Zemi's stance on this. Umber said something very interesting. Getting a Star Wars exclusive would be massive, and it would be a page right out of Sony's book. Now, again, we don't know what Morrison is working on. He lets off very little. So again, this is a completely speculative topic that we're having. But at the core of the conversation, I think that the exclusivity of a Mandalorian game is at the forefront of the conversation, because again, Sony does these IP exclusives to great success, not minuscule success. I mean great success. If you look at Spider-Man 2018, it sold over 25 million. Now, regardless of whether that came, you want to get into the schematics of it. Oh, but they gave it away, this, that, and the third. We can go down that right. I couldn't tell you. But Miles Morales is doing well, and they just announced that they're making a game, not with one Spider-Man, but both. Spider-Man 2 is going to have Venom. It's going to have a ton of his Rogue Galaxy gallery in there. Wolverine was announced. We were talking about that before the show went live. It trended for 2 weeks. right? It's rumor. There's a third game that they're working on. I don't know who's working on it. There's a third game that's going to potentially be announced this Thursday at the 30th rumored show. If they get a third one, Microsoft is going to have to, they're going to have to do something. They can't just sit on their hands anymore. And it appears that they're not. But Daniel McGee, let's get your opinion on this. The Mandalorian, if there's one aspect of Star Wars that's hot, that when you say it or you put it out there, people stop and they look and they say, wow, I know who that is. That's hard to do. And somehow Filoni and Favreau did it, right? Well, The Mandalorian season 1 was amazing. 2 was epic. And 3 is expected to be even bigger, right? So with that said, I'd love to see Microsoft, who normally drags their heels in the sand when it comes to this kind of stuff, be ahead of the game and get that IP that's exclusive. And I would love to see Temuera Morrison come in and reprise his role as Boba Fett, even if it's just a cameo or a clone. I don't care. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So as far as the Boba Fett thing and Temuera Morrison specifically, I kind of agree with Zemi, where it's like, I'm not getting too excited about that because it could be anything, right? It could be an entire Boba Fett game, or it could be that they're making a new Battlefront and he's going to voice one of the heroes in multiplayer of that, right? Like it could be literally.
It could be Star Wars Eclipse too, right?
Yeah,
or even
could
very well be.
Yeah,
It absolutely could. Yeah,
and I do tend to believe that if it is to more specifically doing it, that it'll be something smaller because he's not a voice actor. I feel like if you were going to have an entire Boba Fett game, you'd get probably D. Bradley Baker, who voiced all the clones in the cartoon series.
Yes.
So that seems like probably it's going to be something like maybe a smaller thing where he's not you're probably not playing as him, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But in terms of like getting licensed IP for Xbox, I think it's incredibly important. Having exclusives gives your console and your platform, especially now that there's Game Pass and it's everywhere, it gives it more of an identity, right? Where, especially right now in 2022, it feels like Xbox is kind of struggling with that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't necessarily think it needs to be, Marvel or Star Wars specifically, but they definitely need to get some licensed IP because that's how you get people in, right? Is they see a thing that they already recognize and they're like, oh, I'll play that. And then they're in Game Pass and then there's all these other games and they stick around, right? So, and I do think that you want to hit a certain balance, right? Because I'm actually starting to get a little concerned about Insomniac, who's an amazing developer, and I love everything they do, and will probably continue to love everything they do. But if they are taking all their teams off to just work on Marvel properties, right? Because there's Spider-Man 2 coming and then Wolverine, and I honestly would not be surprised if the third Marvel property is also being done by Insomniac.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Yeah.
Right. So my concern with that is that, what if Disney wakes up tomorrow and buys EA, right? And then they take their properties and they're just making their own games, right? And it's like, okay, well, then what does Insomniac do? They go back to Ratchet, they start doing Resistance. And it's like, okay, well, we've kind of built up these properties and now we don't own them anymore. So I understand why people would be tentative about it. But as a little sneak peek for the video I've been working on, actually, is I've been answering this exact question of like, what are some properties that I think certain studios at Xbox could take on? So I have, for Rare, they did an amazing job with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise for Sea of Thieves.
Yep.
So I was thinking if they just took on basically any of the other Disney ones, right? Where like, what could they do with Aladdin? What could they do with Hercules or even The Little Mermaid if they want to leave it in Sea of Thieves, right? Or Tango does an amazing job with like psychological thrillers type stuff. The perfect match would be Silent Hill, I think, for them. But barring that, you could do like a Stephen King thing. What can they do with The Mist? What can they do with It? Or if you want to be more modern, give them Stranger Things. I feel like that series has been dying for a proper like modern game because I think the only ones that they've had so far have been like more retro style ones, which makes sense for like the basis of the show. But I would love to see like a proper RPG in the Stranger Things universe. The Coalition are the kings of Unreal, right? We all know that. And they're really good at squad dynamics. So give them Suicide Squad or give them Superman. We saw Superman look really great in that Unreal like tech test that somebody did. I bet the Coalition could do an even better job, right? And then the last one I've got here is Obsidian. I think that they should do something in the anime universe, right? Like Shonen. Because they were the ones who did the Stick of Truth, and they figured out a way to make a video game that looks exactly like
Yeah,
the TV
it's
series.
1-to-1 to the cartoon. It's crazy,
right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And my biggest problem with anime games, and I think the reason why they don't take off as much as they should, because anime is extremely popular, is that they always give it that like really weird 3D style. But if Obsidian can find a way to make a game that looks like anime but plays like a video game, then it's over. It's all over. Give them One Piece, give them My Hero, give them Cowboy Bebop, give them anything. And then once that tech is in place, then you can do what they did with the second Stick of Truth game, or what was it called? Fractured Butthole. Give it to somebody else. And then like once that tech is done, then anime games.
Which
are
game was
improved
that?
forever.
Fractured Butthole.
Yeah,
Fractured
he
Butthole.
left out a
That's-
comma, I think. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure.
No, that was the file style. That was the sequel, the Fractured Butthole.
I feel like you added a T though.
What? No, I would never. Or if they don't want to do that and they want to stick to something that's more in their roots already, you could just give them Lord of the Rings. I feel like Lord of the Rings has been dying to have a proper RPG for a while. I know the Shadow of War games have been really good, but I feel like they relied very heavily on the Nemesis system and didn't necessarily do anything like really exciting outside of that. So I feel like Obsidian could do a great job with pretty much anything. But just some free ideas for you, Xbox. there's a whole world of IP that you could license and get people coming into Game Pass.
Yeah, it's they've done it before. I'd love to see them do it again. I think licensed IP has a place. I don't think like Sony. I don't want to say they heavily rely on it because they have their own IPs that are just amazing, right? Horizon, Last of Us, Kratos, and they have a ridiculous amount of stable for sure. But they find a way to do a little bit of both. And having Spider-Man locked up, behind the box, did well for them last gen. Having Miles Morales come out and be as good as it was, and it wasn't just good; it was freaking great. Knowing that team is doing Wolverine and that you're getting a second Spider-Man, it's crazy. But look, I got to catch up with some of the super chats, but I do want to segue into the Marvel conversation, pretty much similar to what we did with with the Star Wars conversation. Real quick, Drawn TJ drops an outstanding additional $5 super chat and says, I want the Callisto Protocol in Game Pass Ultimate Day 1 along with Madden, especially if you want to grab the casual. Yeah, Callisto Protocol will not be in Game Pass, I can guarantee you, because Sony has the marketing on that. So that's not going to happen. You have a better shot of getting Dead Space into Xbox Game Pass because they have a relationship with EA. But even then, I'm not sure what they would have to spend because Dead Space is going to be freaking huge when it releases next year. We have Nady Nay drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I'll take a Deadpool in a Devil May Cry style or a blade in a Ninja Gaiden style. Wow, that sounds dope. And we're going to get into Marvel specifically. That just so happens to be that you dropped the super chat, so thank you for that. Don Otaku, good friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, as King David would say, this is war. Xbox needs to go back to the Xbox 360 days of getting big exclusives like GTA, DLC, BioShock, Mass Effect, etc. I absolutely agree. Brett Bingham drops a $5 super chat and says, Josh, what just said what I thought the Mandalorian game was going to be with the eyeballs. Yeah, like I said, they should hire you, Josh, and put you on that dev team because that's crazy. And we also have Don Otaku drops an additional $5 super chat. Thank you for the generosity, Don. He says Xbox should go for a smaller, popular IP like Invincible. Oh, I like that. The Boys, Stranger Things, Westworld, Avatar, TLA or TMNT, Watchmen, Black Mirror, etc. Yeah, I think that they could do that. They pick a smaller IP, but let's segue into the Marvel situation. Now, here's the thing that I found interesting. Special Nick, who's a good friend of mine, a good friend of this community, on the podcast, dropped a nugget that EA had gotten from Marvel or from Disney that they have locked up, and they are currently in development of an exclusive Marvel IP. We don't know what that is. He couldn't say. All he had, in fact, that they were working on one. So here's my thing. Microsoft seems to be stuck, folks, in this rut. Now, again, I'm going on the fact that the rumor is or is not true about the Xbox Marvel exclusive with ZeniMax Online. If in fact that's the case, then my opinion is null and void. Let me just say that right out of the gate. But if Sony announces a third Marvel IP, I think it's going to put incredible pressure on Microsoft to. I don't say they have. No one is suggesting Microsoft needs to go toe to toe and match what Sony is doing. I don't want Sony to be Microsoft and Microsoft to be Sony. I own both consoles, so I'm going to play whoever has the game I want to play. I don't care about spending the money. I'd rather not spend $76.43 here in New York for a Sony game, but if I have to, I will. What am I going to do if I want to play the game? My thing is this: if Microsoft is unwilling to, let's say, spend the money on a licensed IP, because that's Phil's thing. Phil has a thing about licensed IP. Maybe he's not a fan of it from the way he's spoken about it, because because of the lack of control of said IP, it bothers him. And obviously I think maybe he twitches and he thinks back to the Tomb Raider situation. When they locked up the Tomb Raider deal, my God, it was like Microsoft did the worst thing in the world. And when, like I said, back then it was considered taboo. How dare you lock up this IP? Sony does it now, and it's like, well, Sony's doing better for it. We heard Ryan McCaffrey go on a tirade about this, right? He went on and one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Ryan's anymore is because of this ridiculous tirade. How dare Microsoft lock up Tomb Raider? This is outrageous. They lock up a couple of years later, because people keep receipts. They lock up Final Fantasy. I think this is the greatest move for Sony. You got to pick a side, brother. You know what I'm saying? Either it's bad for Xbox, good for Sony, or I don't know what to tell you.
I think he did pick a side, but he picked Sony's side.
It's weird because he's an Xbox guy, but okay, listen, teaches everyone's own. I'm not going to pee in his cornflakes. That's for sure. But I do want to bring up the conversation, and Ember, I got to go to you again, brother, because you have such a very stout opinion about this. If this is true, if EA is working on a Marvel exclusive, I think this is an incredible opportunity for Microsoft, who has a great relationship with EA, to not only get the marketing. I would love to see a Marvel game come to the box that's exclusive, even if it's just timed. I think that when you look at what Sony is doing, they are running the game. They're running the gauntlet with these Marvel IPs. And if my source is correct, and they announce a third Marvel IP on top of Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, I could see Sony getting like X-Men or something. If they get X-Men, or they get another big like a Daredevil or someone of real relevance, right, to Marvel, which is a hot brand right now. It's the hottest brand of all brands. They print money when a Marvel movie comes out. When you can associate your box with this X character, Wolverine, one of the biggest freaking IPs in the history of IPs, you're going to sell consoles. You're also going to get people to want to play in your system. This is one of the things missing from the Microsoft repertoire. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a downer, a Debbie Downer here, but we got to call a spade here, folks. Do you see Microsoft, if they don't want to spend the money on locking up, Marvel IP, teaming up with someone else and let them develop it, let them carry the load and just spend the money?
The beautiful thing about the ABK situation is now they have literally Beanox and what's the word, Raven Studios,
both incredible. First of all,
absolutely.
If you don't know who Beanox is, before 2018 Spider-Man, they released 2 that were considered, at least in my opinion, some of the greatest Spider-Man games ever released. They're back-to-back incredible releases. Please continue on, bro.
No, you're right. And Raven Studios, I know many people remember them, obviously, from the X-Men Legends game, which was legendary.
Yes.
Great game. It's funny because that ties into my thought. I thought, and I've been saying this for years, since the 360 days, I thought Microsoft should have jumped on the licensed character IP thing. I thought it way back when they brought out the Punisher game. I remember that. And I was like, why don't Microsoft get their own like license thing? And this was before any of this was popping off. Before any of this was thought of. I was like, it'd be nice if they had like an exclusive first party, game for the 360 with Marvel or something like. I've been a Marvel head for decades. Spider-Man is my favorite comic character of all time. I've read plenty of comics. I'm a super nerd when it comes to Marvel comics, even DC. I've read a lot. I've read plenty of Invincible. I've read all that. I've read everything, right? Many people probably wouldn't know that for me because I'm too smooth and I don't seem nerd-like. But anyway, long story short, I had been calling for that for decades. Fast forward, we see Sony gets Spider-Man. Okay, cool. Great deals with Insomniac. Great game, right? And then we find out Microsoft could have had them.
Yep.
What a stab to the heart.
Yes.
So, and then you have so many
literally
people
turned down Spider-Man.
turned him down and KOTOR. So 2 slaps.
Yeah.
So absolutely, there should be some type of licensed superhero game, and in the vein of Spider-Man. I'm not trying to be funny, and I know a lot of people like when I had this debate with them on Spaces. Oh, Xbox doesn't need to copy Sony. They could. Okay, listen, I hear you. But Microsoft, if we're going to go anywhere with what we're talking about, it is okay for us to match fire with fire. And Xbox itself,
Sony has taken lots of Microsoft ideas and made it their own.
That's right.
Microsoft could easily do the same thing.
Yeah, look at the achievements, even to the trophies. Anything else, I don't care as long as it enriches the platform. So Microsoft has the WRPG game on lock. There's no question there now, right? With all the studios they have there. They have the shooter game on lock. There's no question there. Racing game on lock because Forza is so supreme. From Motorsport to Horizon, there's no question there. They're probably going to have the platform game on lock if they can pull their, what's from the sand and actually get on Banjo and Conquer and all those things and use those IP. So what else do they need that they've been lacking? See, I go by lack. I look at what are we not getting on this Xbox side of things. And one of those specifically are third-person over-the-shoulder action adventure games. We need them. Yeah. It's not like a necessity to where we're like, if we don't get it, we're going to fail. Of course not. And we see they're excelling now still. So without even first party. But my entire point is, as far as what it shouldn't be a lack of what we're missing on our side to say, man, I wish we had that. And it doesn't have to be Spider-Man. It could be, for me, and that's why I said I had a bit of a different thought when we were in the green room. I don't think it needs to be Marvel. Go for DC. Go for the WB games.
You know what? Real quick, to that point, you in the chat drops a £2 super chat, and he says just this. Why not buy WB instead and make DC their thing?
Wow, there you go.
That's what I'm saying.
See that? Yeah. Synchronicity. So yeah, absolutely. Go for DC. I've been saying this for a while. Go for the WB games. Get the DC license and get Batman. Batman is the second most relevant comic character in the world. Spider-Man is number 1. There's no question. He's the most marketable. He sells billions in just toys and things like that. So Spider-Man is number 1. Batman is number 2. He has the most infamous villain in the Joker. He's the most beloved villain outside of Darth Vader. Why not get that and put that to the Xbox? And imagine you getting Rocksteady, and you have Rocksteady as a first-party developer. Rocksteady, a top-notch. Yeah. Even if it wasn't a matter of them making a Batman-specific game, they could do a Justice League. They could do so many other things. To me, that's where Microsoft needs to go. And I think, they got to get past the whole license thing. They have to, in my opinion, they just need to get past that. I don't think, again, it's not going to make or break them. But I think it's something where Xbox lacks that they could definitely plug that hole.
Yeah, right. No, I absolutely agree. Danny McGee, let's bring you in on the conversation. Where do you fall on the lack of superheroes on Xbox. Like I said, we there is a rumor that that there is one in the works, but we don't know because Microsoft isn't telling. So we have to go based on the fact of, well, what cards have we been dealt? Well, apparently none, because they don't have a Marvel. They don't have a superhero game of their own at all. For you personally, hearing that Sony could potentially have a third one coming, potentially announced this Thursday, that would be a huge blow. That they would literally have the superhero market cornered. What are your thoughts on Microsoft potentially teaming up with EA if they don't want to spend the money specifically to publish their own? Why not get a timed exclusive or an exclusive altogether?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't know that it even necessarily needs to be a superhero thing. I think that they just need to get in on some licensed property that's popular. But the fact of the matter is that superheroes are kind of the biggest thing going right now, whether it's Marvel or DC or, like somebody else said, Invincible. Like, superheroes are the top of the license tower right now, right? Like, that's what everyone wants to talk about. That's what Disney Plus is pushing. Well, that and Star Wars. But it's really important, and I completely agree with both Umbra and whoever said it in the chat about they should just buy WB. But I want to also add, because I know that as soon as somebody says, "Oh, they should just buy WB," that conversation immediately turns to like, "Oh, but they would never get the IP. They're not selling the IP." Because there's always that guy, right? There's always that guy. Yeah. There's like 4 or 5 different ways that they could get the IP. Right. So it's either they could just buy it because they're Microsoft. They could just buy the whole company, right? Number 2, they could make some kind of mutual partnership deal, because superheroes are the biggest thing in video games right now. But what's the biggest thing in TV and film, right? Is video game adaptations. Look at the Last of Us show, the Ghost of Tsushima's getting something, Gears of War, like
Horizon just got the Horizon 30, 50, 40, 74, something like that was just confirmed to be filming in Canada come October.
Right. Yeah. And so, like, they could make a deal, Microsoft and WB, where it's like, hey, we're going to buy your studios, and we want to make a deal where we get the exclusive rights to make all of the IP for stuff that you own, or make games about that. Right. So, like, DC Comics, Lord of the Rings, all of it.
Yeah.
And you guys can have the exclusive right to make season 2 of the Halo show, and maybe a Warcraft thing, or a Bethesda show, like a Fallout or a Skyrim, right? Like any of those could be adapted into a really great movie or TV show. And I think that is a partnership that would be really beneficial both ways. And then the other option is, if they're looking to sell their studios, then that means that they're not interested in making video games theoretically, right?
Right.
So just buy the rights for the video games. That's what Sony's done for the movie rights of Spider-Man. I feel like most people don't understand that those rights are separate. Like, you can just buy the video game rights and just leave the movie rights to WB and just be like, okay, but we'll make the video games. And maybe that has like we'll have it for 10 years or whatever. Like, it has a limit on it, and then you just re-up at the end. Or even, like, why not just buy the IP piecemeal, right? Like, they're Microsoft, they can afford it. So just be like, oh, hey, what Rocksteady rather, what are you working on right now? You're working on a Flash game? Cool. And then once that comes out, what are you working on? Green Lantern? We'll license that this time, right? Like, there's so many different ways that they could get that IP that they're like, I've never understood the conversation of like, they wouldn't get the IP. It's like, they would find a way. They're Microsoft.
Yeah. And they have the money to spend. You know what I'm saying? It's look, we again, we're just shooting shooting the breeze here. I think everyone's had incredible opinions. Josh, I want to bring you in on the conversation. The exclusivity thing is something that seems to be a bit of an Achilles heel for Microsoft. It is when it comes to licensed IP. Now, again, some people suggest in the chat, real quick, let me just bring it up here. We had one from Master Jazz, who's a good friend of the program. He says, do y'all care about good games or just an image for Xbox? Well, of course we care about good games, dude. I mean, that's who wants a crappy game? But the image. Well, I mean, listen, this is an Xbox show, right? We want the best for the Xbox brand. I want to see the best for the Xbox community. When you talk about certain things, they do better things than Sony. Sony's racing aspect is horrendous. Gran Turismo 7 is like they don't even have a seat at the table anymore. Polyphony. This was this was a train wreck when it released. Not only does it run like a last gen game, but they marred it with microtransactions, and they continue to mess that up. So Microsoft has a few things that they do better than Sony.
And just to say to that question, when he said that, he said, like, I don't know what the choice. Why does there have to be a choice? Why can't we have both?
Yeah, I agree there. I absolutely agree. I think why can't we have both? And when you say it's Microsoft, you should expect that it should be both. Not, again, they have the most money. They're more aggressive now than they've ever been in gaming. Sony is going to have to pivot, and they have been pivoting because of the aggressive behavior of Microsoft. Look, for crying out loud, they're spending almost $80 billion on the makers of Call of Duty and Diablo. It's ridiculous. So they're in it to win it. So they're going to have to pivot the same way Sony has to pivot. Microsoft has to kind of pivot as well. I'm not saying that they're mucking everything up. They're doing a lot of great things, but they do have weaknesses in the armor. They do have holes in the Xbox Game Pass portfolio. Specifically for me, as an old guy on that runs this show at 50, is going to be 52 this year. They do not have an answer to family games. We don't have a new Banjo-Kazooie. Why is that? Why don't we have, when you have two of the greatest racing studios in the history of gaming, how is it that the number one selling game for the Nintendo Switch is a port of a Wii U game, right? It's a freaking port. It's the most sold on the. No one here thinks. I hate to go down this road again, but I'm going to do it because I figured, F it. I'm letting it hang out here. How is it that we do not have a character racer game? Because Microsoft is missing the mark on some things. I'm sorry, they are, and the superhero genre is one of them. Josh, what are your thoughts on this?
Hey, they're spending that $80 billion for Crash Team Racing. That's what's up.
Okay.
I hope that team makes an Xbox racer, but okay, I hear you.
No, I mean, just throw Crash, get Chief in there, get bring the whole team, bring Banjo, give it. We got Rare Racers. They got the name. They got the engine now, or soon with Crash Team Racing. So it's a solid racer. Again, shout out to Mav. I'm gonna have some fun speculating. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Love it.
Here we go. But like, look at the Arkham games. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they are.
Right. They at least two of the four, I think, are up there for people on like some of the best superhero games. What if we saw Justice League or Teen Titans in the same style of game? But again, I'm going to lean into the multiplayer side of it. Like, let's go in with a team and play some of these things. Let's go in with the whole, like the Teen Titans they're an incredibly fun group of superheroes, and seeing them in a setting that's as gritty as what the Arkham games were, and not like, I think a lot of times when we think Teen Titans, we think about the cartoon and kind of that goofiness, but I think there's an element of grit to them that could be done in a fantastic DC game. My overall thought is that I want to see both Sony and Microsoft and even Nintendo right now. It feels like we're in a little bit of a drought, right? And I would like to see some third parties really stepping up and filling that void. And it seems weird that we're not seeing a lot of that right now. They seem to be sticking to like holiday releases, and it's like, why isn't there more stuff releasing like early summer, late spring? I don't know. I want to see. I know it seems to be like the season of DLCs. There's Monster Hunter on the Switch. We got Forza Horizon 5 DLC just came out. Like, I know there are some things out there, but, and of course there's indies, and I'm not saying don't go play indies, but what are those big titles? I know we've had multiple shows talking about, like, with the delays that we've seen, what's going to fill that void. third parties have an opportunity right now, whether it's exclusive or not, to be saying, yo, there's Windows, but where are these games at? And I wonder if it's a shift in the overall just atmosphere of gaming, because free to play is really making itself known. And I mean, EA showed us in those stats earlier this year that like the free to play stuff did billions more than the standalone titles.
Yes.
And so with that shift happening, like what do we expect to see with the future of gaming? I mean, yes, Game Pass is there, and yes, it's going to need those single player games, but I also think, you know, there's a lot of people that like doing multiplayer games, right? It's there, and it's not necessarily just the competitive side of things. Let me play some game. Like, why are people upset that there was no co-op in Halo as we're watching right now? Because some people don't play the campaign of Halo until they can play it with the four buddies that they've played it with.
Yep.
With every
That's
other
true.
campaign or two, but you know, whatever that case may be. And so I want to see these companies making moves that are putting the other companies on their heels, right?
Yep.
Whether it be Sony or whether it be Microsoft. I'm a gamer. We all win when there's like they're fighting for the market share.
Yep.
But
100%.
but right now there's like it feels like a little bit of a calm to me. Like and we're all just kind of waiting for the next big release. And it was strange to see Elden Ring completely overshadow Horizon, right? Like that I don't know that anybody was really expecting that. And granted, I don't know that Horizon stood up to the shadow that the first game cast, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, Josh. I mean, I was very excited for this game because I loved the first one so much. The bugs didn't help. The game did not run good, and it just got cold clocked by the Soulsborne game that just came out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the kind of game, like Elden Ring is the kind of game I want to see regularly. Not necessarily, I'm not saying an Elden Ring game, but to see third parties put out these titles that create buzz, that aren't the cookie cutter Maddens, Call of Duties, like something that's going to get us talking and get everybody playing and get everybody hyped. And I'm not sure. I don't know if they're getting cold feet because of Fortnite and Apex and Warzone and that kind of thing. I know a lot of it ends up becoming a business decision. They may be having a hard time getting investors. I'm not sure. Because I mean, I just got laid off from my job because of the whole investor game, right? In games. So I know it's a factor when they look at numbers and go, well, free to play is bringing this and standalones. I mean, not the standalone isn't bringing big numbers. It was like $2 billion. It's still big numbers, but it's not 5 billion. So where are the investors going to want to put their money? And that's, as gamers, we just kind of go, what's coming out? Why is there kind of a lull right now? Where's the next Elden Ring? Where's the next third party, not exclusive to anything, that's taking advantage of these times right now? And then where are those third parties that Microsoft could be scooping up, or Sony that could be scooping up?
Yeah, well, then that's a great point. Semi Gaines, close out this topic, brother, with your opinion on this. Marvel exclusive, again, it's being done to great success for Sony. Would love to see Microsoft take it. Some people are saying, get Image Comics, make a Spawn game. Yes, please. Why not? Spawn was an original. If you remember when Soul Calibur came out, that was the Xbox character, was Spawn, which was dope. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would appear that Xbox is not super interested in going and finding, third-party IP from movies, television shows, that type of stuff, and working with that type of stuff. I mean, that just kind of seems to be, from like what you said, from what Phil Spencer has kind of talked on the subject and so on and so forth. That's not really what they're interested in. They've been burned in the past, going that route. It definitely seems that Xbox is more interested in working with IP that they own, right? However, they're also fortunately in the market to buy a lot of stuff right now, even still, after this Activision Blizzard deal goes through. I believe it's been confirmed and stated that they're still interested, they're still looking to buy other things, right? I think Warner Brothers makes a lot of sense. I really do. The problem with that is that a lot of the IP that Warner Brother owns, may not necessarily be transferable, like through like sell, right? That's just, there's a lot of very detailed, granular, like specific things with these contracts. Sometimes you can sell it, sometimes you can't. For instance, Harry Potter, it's just things that we don't know, right? Obviously J.K. Rowling owns Harry Potter, right? And it may be stated in a contract that Warner Brothers is not able to transfer that to anyone that purchases them, right? Or like whenever they get purchased, the rights to
revert
games
back.
and movies.
That's actually what would happen with Sony. If someone bought Sony, the Spider-Man rights would revert right back to Disney.
Yeah, so I mean, so that all becomes a really, really tricky situation. However, I will say that Xbox is currently working with one IP that that being Indiana Jones. Now,
Right.
I don't know if that was Xbox that went out of their way to work with Disney to get that, or if that was a prior arrangement with ZeniMax before they were acquired. Who knows, right? I don't know that, right? But it definitely seems like Xbox is more interested in acquiring the IP and owning it, owning rights to it, rather than just licensing out, the rights for one game, and then 10 years later, who knows where it's going to be at, right? Which I don't blame them, just knowing their history. So with that being said, I don't know how likely it would be for them to go and license out a Marvel character. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely that they would be interested in purchasing, for instance, like Warner Brothers Studios, and getting the DC game rights, or whatever else would come along with that. If they did make a Marvel game, which I don't think is super likely, that's just my personal opinion, I would love to see them do Punisher, honestly.
Yes, give that to the coalition. Yes.
Yeah, I love the old Punisher game that released, I think, on like the PlayStation 2, like way
it was
back
great.
in the
You
day.
could put people into the piranha tank and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It was great. It was
yeah,
great.
yeah. There's that one mission where you were hiding in the coffin at a mobster's funeral, and then you pop out and you just start gunning down all the mobs. I don't know. I shouldn't have been playing that. I was like 8 at the time or something. But regardless of that, like that would be like my ideal Marvel game. I don't think it's going to be likely. I think it would be more likely for Microsoft just to acquire WB games, and get as many hunt down as many of those licenses as they can, and do something with that. I think that would be more just more likely for me personally.
And listen, makes great sense. Again, everyone had amazing points. We do have the big topic that the near 400 people are probably waiting for. But before we get to that big topic, let me thank Don Otaku. Drops not one, but 2 additional $5 super chats. And the first point, he says, forget Marvel and DC. Xbox should just make a AAA open world My Hero Academy game. That would do it for me. That would do it for a lot of people. That would be big. That would be a monster.
Because I am here.
Yeah. And he also, his second super chat says, only Xbox and PlayStation are in a drought. Nintendo has been dropping big games almost every month since the start of the year, and has 3 big releases next month. As a matter of fact, one of their big holiday games, and I believe Jeff Grubb actually just said this, is that they're going to announce finally, for the love of Joe, the Metroid Prime trilogy for the Switch. I cannot wait for that game. I know I'm part of the problem.
I think third parties are killing it too, in all fairness. I mean, just looking at this holiday, like it's all third party. Like, it's like they're saving Christmas for us all.
There's no doubt about it. But folks, Let's get into topic number 4. And this is a big one, folks. So some people don't think it's a big deal. I think it's a monster deal. And I'm going to break down why. It has been reported that Microsoft's Xbox Series X and S has outsold the PlayStation 5 in Japan for the second time this year. Now, listen, some people think that this is a blip on the map. If that's how you feel, good on you. But the way that streaks start is you have to eventually win one, right? You have to just one, as Cognito would say from the Iron Lords. Hashtag just one, right? You need just one. Well, they got 2. But why this might be the prelude to something big, folks. Isn't that Microsoft is going to put Sony out of business in Japan and Nintendo's running scared? That's their home turf, so they're gonna do well. The question is, how long before Microsoft starts winning on the monthly basis? Well, I seem to think, and we'll get the chat and of course the panel's opinion on this. This is why the Riot Games deal is monster. It might be one of those exclusives that we didn't know that we wanted, but now have. And when you look at it, when you take, that third person view, or like good friends Pong Soul and Steel Rain from Living Split Screen says, you take it from the RTS view and you step all the way back and you look at the big playing field in front of you. This Riot Games thing, when this happens, when League of Legends comes into Xbox Game Pass on PC and mobile, it is going to dominate the conversation in that region of the world. And I say that because we know for an absolute fact that even though people are buying Series S consoles like crazy over there, PC is huge. PC is massive over there. And like I said, I think it was, who was it that did the actual breakdown? It might have been Jez Corden of Windows Central that did the monetary breakdown of what every League of Legends character, if you wanted to pay for it, would cost you. It's over $600, and you're going to be able to just get that for $15 a month. It's madness. So I want to go first to Umbra on this. Seeing Xbox win a second month in 2022, outpacing Sony. Now, they didn't beat Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch has been winning NPDs and Japan for, it seems like, almost 3 years already. It's ridiculous. But it is a big deal because Sony is Microsoft's direct competitor. What are your thoughts on them winning a second month this year? And will we see the addition of the Persona series and now the Riot Game situation potentially move Microsoft into the zeitgeist of Japan?
It's always a tough thing for Japan because they're just notoriously, I don't want to say xenophobic, it's the wrong word, but they're very much home team players. Right?
They are very home team. Yeah.
So it's impressive to me alone that Xbox is doing anything to Sony at all there, or just selling, really. I mean, it's historically they haven't done great. The greatest selling, obviously, was the Xbox 360, which surprisingly sold lifetime like 1,600,000 over there in Japan, which is impressive and it worthy because the 360 was such a great console. But I think that if they can continue to get proper like Japanese centric games, especially if they get them exclusive like the 360 was doing, they can go back and rebound with that. I'll say this, I think it's monumental, although the numbers aren't like groundbreaking, right? It's like 6,000 or something they sold this time compared to, I think they did a 2-1 basically this PlayStation, which is ironic because a lot of Sony fans were saying that they do a 2-1 to Microsoft this gen. But so it's interesting, but it's monumental just because, like you said, they have to start somewhere. They have to crawl before they walk. And
what's interesting to that point? Someone actually just sent me this, and it was in a DM, so I haven't had a chance to fact check it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But apparently, here in the U.S., Microsoft has just pulled past Sony's PlayStation 5. It's a hint.
Oh, wow.
But they just pulled past PlayStation.
Are you
5
talking about?
sales.
Are you talking about the North America market?
North America, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I think VG Charts had them 200,000 ahead.
There you go.
Wow.
Thank
I know they were like 80,000 behind, I think, a week ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. We saw it coming. That was, to me, a foregone conclusion. And it should kind of be that way because, again, Microsoft is home to America, so you kind of expect that kind of hometown, So it's the same way I look at Sony and Nintendo. Nintendo, I don't even put them into an equation really for that because they're, to me, like the complementary console. They're not the direct competitor, like you said. For me, like I said, the numbers aren't like something that's like, oh, wow, did you see the numbers it did? It's just impressive itself that they did anything in Japan, I think, for most of us. So for it to not only sell anything decently, but to outsell PlayStation and again, for the second time now, it's just impressive. And they've been outselling PlayStation for a while all over, like you said, here in North America and such for the past few months. Here and there, I think Sony squeaked in a win here and there. But overall, it's been Microsoft, and it's kind of crazy when you really look at it because they haven't had any AAA, first-party games for this year, and they won't. So for them to actually be doing all that, to me, it shows not only the strength of the console, but Game Pass. And I think a lot of people just ignore that or want to ignore it. But Game Pass is clearly the ultimate decider. And I think a lot of people in Japan see that value, and they see now that the S was obviously one of the smartest moves Microsoft could have made.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And here's the thing that's interesting. Just imagine this now. Game Pass is doing very well over there, right? Cloud gaming is doing very well over in Japan. There's cafes built specifically for cloud gaming, and Microsoft is doing well in that area. This is why people are like, oh, but boom, they don't need their own handheld. This is where I say nay to that, because if the rumor is true and they are testing a handheld that would logistically go directly against Switch, OMG. Could you imagine if you bring home your console, your portable console, especially in that region of the world, in Japan, and for $15 a month, you have 500 games at your fingertips? And now again, what we might be witnessing here is all of Phil's plans come to fruition in the form of, you get Game Pass, you get cloud gaming, you get into that region of the world. The S is selling in that region of the world. You team up with Riot Games. Those type of MOBAs seem to be huge in Japan, and now you can equate all of that with potentially a handheld. It looks like Phil's plan of world domination is coming to fruition. And I know he was clowned on, we want to appeal to 3 billion gamers. People teased him for it. But the guy what he talked about a couple of years ago that people clowned him on, he's laughing now because it's coming to fruition. Danny McGee, let's get your opinion on this. Is it a big deal that Microsoft has outpaced Sony again in Japan? Because a lot of people are like, well, they just can't make consoles. I really have to say I don't agree with that argument. No one's going to go out and spend $300 just because a PlayStation 5 isn't available. I think that's ridiculous. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree completely. So first of all, I think it's massive that Xbox is winning in Japan to any extent. Now, I don't necessarily think they'll overtake PlayStation this generation, but if they can just exist in Japan or in the Asian market in a way that matters to the point where Japanese developers see the Xbox as worth putting their games on, so we stop getting that thing where Japanese games just don't come to Xbox for literally no reason, that would be a huge get. But this is the second thing in under a month that people have been telling me would never happen for Xbox. They're like, Persona would never come to Xbox, and Xbox will never win in Japan. And here we are, and they're back to back. So Xbox is proving the impossible. As far as the handheld idea goes, I agree that it would be massive, and I also agree that they don't necessarily need it, just because they've got the streaming to your phone. They've got then now you can get Game Pass on a Steam Deck. So if they don't put out a handheld, I don't think it's the end of the world for them, but I think it'd be really big for them for sure. But yeah, as far as them winning in Japan goes, like, that's crazy, right? Like, especially like you were saying, this year when they have put out basically nothing, and PlayStation has been having not necessarily their best year, but a good year for sure. It's really crazy that they've won not once but twice. You know what I mean? And people saying that it's because they can't find a PlayStation, like that doesn't. I don't feel like that tracks, right? Because so they're talking about they can't make the PlayStations because of this like silica shortage, right? And I don't know that holds up to reasoning, because it's like, okay, well, Xbox exists on the same planet with the same resources, so I'm not really sure what silicon asteroid you think Xbox is mining from that PlayStation doesn't have access to.
I love it,
but
it's great.
It just doesn't make sense to me. And the other part of it is like, I don't care about VR, but I know that a lot of people do, specifically like Asante. But it
Who's listening, by the way?
Who's listening? Okay. But it's really makes me really concerned, because like if the shortage is a contributing factor to why PlayStation isn't performing as well as they probably want it to, then it worries me that they're looking to pull some of the silicon out of their PS5 manufacturing to make the PSVR 2, because it's all the same resource. They're just making different chips, right? So it seems weird to take resources out of PS5 to make a peripheral that you can't play without a PS5. Yeah. All around, I just don't understand it. But it's been a massive year for Xbox, despite the fact that they have done seemingly very little.
No, and that's a great point, Daniel. To be honest with you, it's a bit of a head scratcher when you sit back and you honestly look at the output from first party, right? It's been non-existent this year, and it's going to remain that way for the last 6 months of the year. That's a confirmed fact, and we're not going to reiterate why that sucks. But somehow or another, what they have and what they're getting into places like Xbox Game Pass, their service seems to be enough for who? The casual market. The casual market propelled Sony to a ridiculous 115 million consoles, meaning PlayStation 4s sold. That Microsoft finds themselves in a position where if they could start, I mean, right now they're selling the S's like they're hotcakes. If they could match that with some AAA bombs, which we know are coming next year, it is going to be a tough road for Sony. And then again, not saying that Sony is going out of the business. Sony's dead. Sony's in trouble. No one's suggesting that at all. Sony is going to be is always going to be Sony. They're going to be great for what they do. But Microsoft seems to be attacking on many fronts, and they're doing it to great success. I think that if this handheld thing that we're going to talk about on Thursday has any fruition to it, I'm going to be a day one buyer, because, like I said, I don't like playing on my phone. I don't want to play in the tablet. I won't even play on my computer. I play on console, but I would like a dedicated handheld personally. Let's bring in Zemi Games on this. Zemi Games, this is, again, some people consider this to be a blip on the map. I'm interested to get your opinion on it. How big is this for now the second time this year? Microsoft has outpaced Sony in sales. Now, I don't know how much it is. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but we do have some.
It's by about 4,000 units.
So it's not by much, but the fact that they were able to do that is still impressive. And now when you equate them outpacing Sony here in the States, again, all of these little wins build to this big, this big conversation that we're about to have. What are your thoughts on this? Is it a big deal that Microsoft has won in Japan again?
No, not really. I don't think it's really like that huge of a deal. I mean, is it positive news for the Xbox brand? Yeah. Is it something that's great to talk about? Yeah. Is it something that would, potentially be newsworthy enough to catch someone's eye and maybe make them think about adopting the Xbox platform? Yeah, possibly. But I mean, we're talking 4,000 units difference here. And we also have to remember that, there still is supply chain shortages. There still is chip shortages. And that absolutely plays a huge impact on this. Xbox is able to get a lot of consoles out, a lot more, consoles out now than what they were able to do against PlayStation earlier in the generation, or earlier in this console generation. Earlier, PlayStation had a lot more systems out there than Xbox did. So
Right.
it looks like it's starting to even out a little bit. But we also have to look at the playing field all across the board. Currently, according to VG charts, Xbox Series consoles sold in Japan is 240,000 units. Okay, that's great numbers for Xbox, especially considering how they performed last generation.
Yes.
But for PlayStation 5, consoles sold in Japan is 1.7 million.
Right.
Right. So there are a heck of a lot more PlayStations out there in that ecosystem that have been purchased in Japan than Xboxes. So there's a huge gap there. And then even in like the global, market, I mean, Xbox has sold about, I think, 15.37 million consoles, Xbox
Right.
Series consoles. PlayStation has 20.84 million consoles. So they're, so even PlayStation's leading on the global scene by around a little bit more than 5 million units, right?
Right.
Ultimately, with all of this being said, we've said it, before on the show, and it's still just as relevant now. Console sales do not matter to Xbox. They don't, right? What matters to Xbox is Game Pass subscribers. That's really ultimately what's going to matter for them. With that being said, I'm not saying that consoles are completely obsolete. They don't matter at all, because, each console that you sell is an opportunity to sell someone Game Pass, right?
Yes.
Now, for me personally, I think it does all come down to chip shortages, right? I don't think that there's a store in Japan that is just plumb full with PlayStation 5 consoles right there sitting on the shelf available to purchase for everyone, right? I would say it's probably very similar to how it is here in the States. It's hard to get a PS5 right now. It's hard to get an Xbox Series X right now. The availability, comes and goes. And a lot of that is, the demand for these new consoles, I think, is still extremely high, and the supply has not met the demand yet. And until that does, I don't think we're really going to be able to accurately gauge how well each of these console sales, for each of these platforms, is doing. If we had a unlimited number of consoles out right now in stores, and anyone could go and buy these, with no restrictions or anything like that, then we could really and truly see who's outperforming who. But right now, it's just a game about how many chips we can get, how many chips we can order, how many chips, these factories can make, who placed in their orders, first and second, and so on and so forth, right? That's what really matters. I would say Xbox is going to have a harder time selling more consoles in Japan than PlayStation is. And I think one way around that would be a handheld system.
Yep, 100%.
The Nintendo Switch is, I mean, we're talking about these numbers right here. The Nintendo Switch is just absolutely blowing the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles just right out of the water in sales, right?
Yeah.
Consumers will show you what they want just by what they're purchasing. A lot of consumers in Japan are purchasing the Switch, right? They definitely love that handheld mobile.
Well, again, this is the reason
experience.
why that is Zemi Games is because 10 years ago they were a console dominated culture. They are no longer that way. They are dominated by handheld, by cafes, by gaming on the go, and that's why the Switch appeals.
Well, I mean, another aspect as well, and we've mentioned this on the show a couple of other times, but culturally, they don't have a ton of space in Japan, right? Their houses aren't as big as they are here in the States and in European countries as well. And so to have a big bulky console and a big flat screen TV and all of that different stuff, I mean, it's actually really interesting. Go and check out some Tokyo apartment tour videos on YouTube sometime, and you can just see how small a lot of these apartments are. A Switch just is a more practical console to buy if you're looking to play games. It just is. It's more practical than PC. It's more practical than console. Than PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series consoles. So this handheld system idea, I think, would be phenomenal for Xbox, and it would help them sell so many units in that region. Another thing that's going to help them is I think it's like Project Keystone, right? yeah, like just the it's almost kind of like the Amazon Fire Stick for
Yes.
Xbox, right? That I think that could help them out a lot as well. But right now, as far like, do these numbers really ultimately matter? They do not. They do not matter. I mean, it's a very minuscule difference, and I think once again, it all comes down to the shortage of these consoles, right? If you don't have them to sell, then you're not going to be able to sell them, and that's kind of what PlayStation is currently experiencing. They're just getting less stock out than what Xbox is able to do. They got more stock out at the very beginning. It's just one of those things, right? But I don't think it really dramatically matters all that much. Japan matters as a market. Don't get me wrong; it's the third largest market per revenue in the games industry, right? Per country, right? Japan's number 3, United States is number 2, China's number 1. So absolutely, Japan matters. But this specific, specific data that we're talking about, this 4,000 unit difference, doesn't really matter a whole lot, especially not right now with these shortages.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that doesn't come up in conversation enough is Sony keeps elaborating that it's a shortage of chips, but no one seems to talk about the fact that it could be their yield issues. Again, it's rumored that they're losing a console 1 out of every 2. Now, I don't know if that's still a fact, but it's certainly a part of the conversation. But
that was rumored. But also too, to point out, remember Sony had a different approach when they first launched. They put out the front end was heavier loaded with PS5s than the Xbox was. So I think this is also coming to bite them in the butt a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
And I want to push back just a little bit on what Zemi was saying, because I agree with by and large everything he was saying. Because he's right. If you're looking at those numbers in terms of who's going to win in Japan, then it's like this isn't going to turn the tides, right? Like PlayStation is still going to beat Xbox in Japan this generation. I pretty much guarantee it. Just like I can pretty much guarantee that Xbox is going to win in the States. But I feel like when you look at it in terms of Xbox just making themselves known in Japan, just like having a presence
making
there,
them
to
a part of
point
the
where they can
conversation.
actually, to where they have a seat at the table. I feel like that's the bigger, more important aspect of this.
Good point. I agree with that.
I hear you, but I don't even think we need this data to even show that. I think all that we need to show that is seeing Persona 5 coming into Game Pass during the last show. We don't even need this data for that. Also, I think Phil, regardless of like the console sales, obviously the console sales are helping it, right? But I think Phil actually taking an actual interest in the region, traveling over there, building those connections, shaking those hands, networking the way that he has been, is really what is built this up, right? Like probably I think that is actually more important than the number of console sales that they have for the Japanese market, because a lot of these Japanese games, they're bought here in America. Americans love Japanese games. Europeans love Japanese games. So just selling consoles in Japan, I don't think is the biggest thing that's going to dictate whether Japanese companies sell their game on the Xbox or publish the Xbox. I think the biggest thing that has helped impact that is, Phil Spencer actually going over there and Xbox actually taking an interest in what these Japanese developers are doing and making deals with them.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. Listen, N64 Josh, let's get your final opinion on this. Where do you fall? Because like I said, there's been some really great opinions on this. Zemi Games makes some great points. Again, the fact that Microsoft, in a region that they have notoriously failed for the second time this year, outpaced Sony. Now, you can equate that to chip shortages or yield issues. I think I will push back on it. No one's going to be like, hey, I want to buy a PlayStation 5, but hey, look, there's an Xbox sitting there. Let me just go buy this brand that I never bought before for the H of it. I do not agree with that at all. I think that people are buying Xbox there because they want to buy Xbox there. Microsoft is setting themselves up to make their console and their platform a part of the conversation, which for years it wasn't. And I think at the center of that conversation is Xbox Game Pass, but getting games like Persona in there. And again, Zemi's right. Microsoft does not necessarily care about console sales. No, they want to say a Game Pass, and like I said, that's why they went out and got this the Riot deal. What are your thoughts on this, dude?
They need to strike while the iron is hot, right?
Yep.
And going after something like Monster Hunter,
Yep,
would be a huge play.
Well, that's why Certain Affinity is working on a Monster Hunter-esque game that is exclusive to the brand.
That's a good point.
And that being within cloud gaming, and then the ability to use something like a Backbone, or something that allows you to play your game on the go just by being a part of Game Pass. I mean, I fell asleep last night playing Shredder's Revenge with my Backbone on my iPhone.
That's awesome. I love it.
I own Shredder's Revenge on my Switch with a bigger
So do I.
screen.
I double dipped as well. Yeah.
But there's achievements on the Xbox.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's a factor for me. I want to keep that gamer score going up, So that's where I'm playing. That's where I'm leveling up. And it runs so smooth. Like, going back to cloud gaming after not touching it for probably 6 months, I can't believe how smooth it runs. Even when I'm not I was sitting outside on my front porch and pretty far from my router, still worked relatively well. There was some artifacts and a little bit of lag here and there, but nothing that made it unplayable. But getting that nailed down in a place where it does seem like people like to keep, their space is valuable.
Yes.
Right. And you've got the PlayStation 5 there popping its collar, taking up a massive part of their living room versus a Series S that's just like a Kleenex box, or the X that's not that much bigger either. That has to be appealing. Couple that with Game Pass, that you can play certain games without even needing a controller. They're just at your fingertips. But now you've got more games. You got Apex Mobile. Call of Duty Mobile is massive. I think it's Game Pass that's really pushing this needle, not just not just there's just more to play for your money at that point. And so I think it's a huge factor. Again, my overall stance is I don't want to see either of these companies win. I want to see both of them in a very, very healthy fight. Like, as a fan of UFC and things like that, what are the best fights? When you see both contenders just going at it toe to toe, and you don't know who's going to win. It's a nail biter, right? That's what I want to see from all three of these companies. I do want to add a little clarity, because I see the super chat from Don. I do know that Nintendo's releasing, that has been releasing games. There's not much of a drought there, but where there's a drought is those games that everybody's hyped about, everybody's talking about. We saw it with Shredder's Revenge for a short period of time. Those are the games that I'm talking about, where a massive amount of the gaming community is playing, talking about it, and almost kind of brings us together. You know what I mean? Something kind of like what Animal Crossing did back during the pandemic, stuff like that. It's those games that are bringing a massive amount of
marquee games. Yes.
That's what I feel like we're lacking this year. There's been a lot of niche titles, especially from Nintendo, with Fire Emblem Warriors. That's
which I just bought. I had Mario Strikers.
But the conversation of Strikers has not been all that positive, and so
no, it hasn't.
And so that's that. I feel like Elden Ring was like our staple game for this year. Shredder's Revenge has been another one where just everybody's excited about it, everybody's talking about it, and those are some of the titles that I really want to see. So just to bring a little clarity there. But I mean, I think it's great that Xbox is doing the work that they're doing, taking that market share in Japan. It's good, because it makes Sony wake up, right? And any time that they're going to be put on their heels, they're going to have to step up if they want to stay in this thing. And that's good for gaming.
Yep, absolutely. Listen, one hell of a show. We got all 4 topics in. Everyone had great points. Let me just catch up on the last 2 super chats that came in from Pragmatic Eagle, good friend of the generous friend of the program. He drops not 1 but 2 super chats for $5 and says the superhero games are fun. I don't think that it's an issue. It's demand for it to be licensed. It's demand for it to be licensed superhero. Just build the world, create our own heroes. And the second super chat says Xbox is known for create your own character, CAC, your own story, follow your own path kind of games. This needs to be their approach with superheroes. Yeah, and we could see that in this rumored ZeniMax Online Marvel game. It could very well be that where you do create your own story, create your own hero. Again, I'm more of a traditionalist. I would like them to have their own story-driven, Marvel-esque type of game, but only time is going to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We had over 400 people stop by and hang out today. I can't thank you enough. The super chats were absolutely unbelievable. Mrs. Boomstick and I will be doing our annual Christmas in July giveaway. I believe that's going to come the second or third week of the month. We're giving away $400 worth of digital giveaways. It's probably going to be in the form of 8 $50 gift cards to your choice of PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, or Nintendo Switch over their your eShop. And we'll give details as we get closer to that. But let's get to the outros. We'll start first with our guests in Infinite Umbra. Please, by all means, brother, sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can find you on other podcasts. And more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
You guys can reach me on social media under Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. Tomorrow is going to be interesting, Boom, because tomorrow I'll be appearing on the Xbox International podcast.
Very nice. Love those guys over there. Yeah, awesome.
With Randall Althor, the man with a million.
Nice.
I'm going to try to get now. Crazy Louie has challenged me to a sing-off. If you all don't know, you gentlemen wouldn't know. But I sing all the damn time. I'm going to sing off. I'm going to try to get Rand to sing on camera.
You're not going to get Rand to sing on camera. I can guarantee.
I'm going to do my best to coerce him into it. I'm like the man with the magical voice. That's to be a new name, Rand. Come on. But yeah, you guys can find me on that tomorrow. I believe it's 5:00 Eastern for the Xbox International. Yes. And my podcast with Risky for the Biscuit, Jedi Knight Peter, and Doom Cutie, you all can find me. It's called Xbox Infinite, named after me. Nobody will admit to it, but it's named after me. The Xbox Infinite podcast on Fridays at 8 Eastern. It's kind of late, but yeah, it's worth it, I think. And we got a few good guests coming soon. I think even we might have Tim Dog appearing, not this week, but next week.
Nice.
So, and we've had a lot of great people on there, including yourself, Boom. So we got to have you on there again soon.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you again for the invite to this. And Daniel and Josh, it was a pleasure meeting you. And Zemi, it's always good to hear you, brother, and your takes on everything. And thank everybody in the chat for coming to support.
Thank you, brother. Well, it was great to have you here. Definitely appreciate that. Daniel McGee, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone where they want to find out that the troll post that you made about Final Fantasy, so we can add to your views. But now, all jokes aside,
yeah, come on down. Make sure you leave a comment about how much I suck. Tell your friends to come and watch me suck.
Oh my goodness.
You can find me on social media.
Tell everyone about your incredible YouTube channel, and more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, so you can reach me on Twitter at Daniel J. McGee, or on YouTube at just Daniel McGee, like it says right here. Yeah, it's been a great show. Had a lot of fun. It's been great getting to meet Umbra and Zemi. Josh, Boom, great as always.
Thank you,
lot
sir.
of fun.
Yeah, well, it was great, and we definitely got to get you back for sure. Zemi Games, sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can check out your YouTube channel, find you on social media, but more importantly, tell them where they can support you by buying your first ever game, Back to School, available on Steam and Xbox Live.
Boom, I'm telling you, I just need you to do my outro for me, man. You do such a better job than I do. But yeah, so my game Back to School released earlier this year. And it is a educational quiz game where the player has to answer primary school questions to see if they're smart enough to graduate from elementary school. So it's a really fun game.
It does make you feel like a dummy because
it does make you feel like a dummy because there's a lot of things that you were taught in first grade that you do not remember now. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you.
But I know all the answers because I made the game. But anyway, so you guys can go check out that game, purchase it on Xbox, on Steam for Steam for $4.99. You guys can also follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games, and that's pretty much all I got. Boom! Thank you so much for the invite. I was super happy that I could jump in today and help you with the panel shortage.
I definitely appreciate that, brother. You're always welcome here, as you are one of the founding members of the podcast. Thank you for that. And last and no way least, N64 Josh, or in some circles, TikTok Josh himself. Sell your brand, brother. Tell them where they can check you out in the 100-man Mario Kart on TikTok, and more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, I'm N64 Josh everywhere. I host a number of podcasts. The Xbox Now podcast is back. We're recording a new episode tonight. That has its own YouTube channel. I, of course, do the Nintendo Powercast as well. I'm on a Star Wars show called the Bendu Cast. Like, there's so many places to find me. But yeah, we're racing live on TikTok every afternoon around 4 p.m. Pacific. Whether we're racing or playing some retro games or just hanging out, it's always a good time. And I really appreciate being here and hanging out with you guys. So thanks so much.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you having here. I got to give a shout out to Ozzy Man Diaz 88. He says, I will not tolerate any Elden Ring slander. Guards. And yes, I absolutely agree. It's still my game of the year. I have not beaten it, sadly. That last boss, the first form, no problem. I could beat him down even taking a hit. It's that dinosaur thing.
Oh, Echo the Dolphin form.
Cheese MF. I've
hate
tried
that
so
part.
many builds. Oh my God. I will get him eventually. He's a Cheese Master 07 for sure.
I despise that second form.
Yeah, he is just ridiculous because he falls all the way back and it's like you're just kind of hung out to dry. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Definitely appreciate all the clicks for the show. If you enjoyed it, please consider hitting the like button. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We are on a march to 12K. That's what we want to do this year. We hit 10K on the Iron Lords podcast earlier this year in January, and I'd love to finish off the year with an additional 2K, 12K. We're almost at 11. We're a couple of hundred away, and we'd love to get to the 12K mark. That would be big for the channel. And, of course, I want to say a big thank you once again to all of the Super Chats. Those power the show, allow us to do these big giveaways. And, of course, I'm going to close out today's show with something, folks, that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught me with kids. And he would say, son, treat others how you want to be treated, and also it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.